Every day, thousands of flight attendants take to the skies, gliding 35,000 feet above the world, serving, assisting, saving lives, and chasing sunrise across time zones. But behind the polished uniform and perfect smiles, there's questions more and more people starting to ask. Is it worth it? This job isn't about glamour. It's early mornings, unpredictable hours, low pay at first, and days spent far away from home. But it's also freedom. It's adventure. It's the kind of job that changes how you see the world and how the world sees you. In this video, I'm breaking down the pros and cons, the realities and the myths of becoming a flight attendant. From pay, schedule, to mental health, job stability, we're covering it all. Because this career can be amazing, but it definitely isn't for everyone. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Traveling Gun. Today's a little bit different video. I'm just going to break down the pros and cons of becoming a flight attendant. Is it still worth it? The pay, the schedule, mental health, family life, everything above these, all the above. And I've been a flight attendant for 7 years, just to give some context for people who are new here. I've been a flight attendant for 7 years for a regional airline. So I have a little bit of insight on things that I want to share because I know a lot of people, this is their dream job. This is the job that they've been working so hard to get to. So I want to give you the pros and cons before you make that decision to make sure you're making the right decision. Because in the end, you're still going to do it whether you want to or not. But I want to be your friend and give you some insight, information, and insight on things that you need to know before dusting off that resume and becoming a flight attendant. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read a message that someone who quit being a flight attendant after their first year here and basically just want to serve as a eye-opener and I don't want to say a warning to new hires, but not so much of a warning, but just giving some advice for new hires. So I'm going to read this passage that someone left after quitting after their first year. 1 year and 1 month later, I'm hanging on my wings in my airline. Being a flight attendant was a job that I've always dreamed of. The idea of traveling, laying over in a different city, and exploring different cultures and places seemed like a career for me. I'm not sure if I'll ever return to the flight attendant life, but it was an interesting experience for sure. The lifestyle of being a flight attendant is like no other. Something that I want to inform those who are looking to become a flight attendant. I hope my experience can help. This is from my personal experience and from my former airline. Make sure you're coming into this job with an understanding what this job really entails, because although it is very exciting at times, it also can be very difficult, stressful, and challenging. A lot of my colleagues quit a couple of months in because it wasn't what they all expected. Saving a good amount of money before you leave for training. Not all airlines pay for training, but provide lodging and meals. Depending on the airline and your current financial situation, money is going to be very tight. Sacrifice will have to be made if you don't have support from family or friends. You'll be investing into your own career as a flight attendant in terms of uniform accessories, or if you're a commuter, paying for Uber, paying for hotels, crash pads. Don't become a flight attendant if you're looking to make big bucks. Pay increase over time, and when you get a line, which means it may take many years before that can happen. Consider moving to base instead of commuting. Commuting itself is already another job and can be stressful when flight options are limited. Consider renting a room or renting an apartment with a classmate. Consider adopting a healthy lifestyle like food and exercise. Stay hydrated. Keep in touch with your classmates, friends, and family. This job gets very lonely and depressing might set in. And make sure you get your rest. Rest is very important and fatigue is very real. You'll be very exhausted on those multi-day trips and you can fall asleep in your jump seat. And you can't fall asleep in your jump seat. Now, that's just a portion of that person's reality of what happens. And I wanted to touch on a few of those subject lines that he spoke with. So I tell most people, when you're coming into this job, no matter whether it's regional or mainline, don't expect to have weekends off or holidays off. Not saying that it cannot happen, because nothing is absolute. It can possibly happen, because in my first year in my airline now, I had every holiday off. Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, whatever it was, I had every holiday off. And I had weekends off as well. But that just happened that way. When you go to a major airline, it might not be the same. You might go to another regional airline, it might not be the same. So if you're coming from a traditional 9-to-5 job where you work Monday through Friday and off on the weekends, and that's what you're used to, you might have to be a little bit more flexible in your schedule, because you might not get that schedule of being off working Monday through Friday, being off on Saturday and Sunday. And you might have to work on holidays as well. Some airlines do pay holiday pay, not all do. My airline in particular does pay holiday pay for 6 holidays. So you have to deal with that versus you being off on a holiday and getting paid for the holiday. So that's another thing to look at as far as when it comes down to schedules. Also, another thing when it comes down to schedules, you might not get the best schedule. You might start off on reserve, which means you're on call. So if you live out of base, you have to be ready to get to the airport within 2 hours. So if you don't live in the base that you're in, the city that you're based in, you might want to look into renting a crash pad or moving to that particular base. Because if you don't have a line, it's hard to commute on call, and you have to be at the airport within 2 hours. And you can't keep getting occurrence after occurrence after occurrence, and then you're gonna end up losing your job for that. Even if you do get a line, you might be super junior and you might not get the best layovers. You might not have, if your company goes international, you might not have the layovers in Jamaica, Bahamas, Italy, Paris, South Africa. You might have to have the layovers out in Willacoochee, Georgia, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Augusta, Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Kansas City, Memphis, Springfield, Missouri. Although there are fun things to do in every city, you just have to find it, but they might not be the most desirable. So that's a realistic expectations. And again, nothing is absolute, because you could possibly get those layovers within your first year. You could possibly have those fun, long layovers within your first year. It's very possible that you can do that. Nothing is absolute. Nothing. Another thing that I stress when people ask me about becoming a flight attendant is saving money. If you don't have a savings now and you have not applied, start saving. My goal, my comfortable, would say 2 months, 2.5 months, 3 months of bills would be ideal. That's rent, cell phone, car note if you have it, whatever bills that you pay, 3 months of that saved. Because not all training pays. So you might not get a check in training. They might just cover your lodging and meals as they stated in their message. Now some do pay, but it might be at minimum wage. Some might pay a stipend where you don't get that stipend until the end of training once it's completed. And it's still not going to be enough to cover your bills for the month and a half or the 2 months or the 3 months, however long the training is. Saving money is very, very important when it comes to this job, because again, by the time you get out of training, you probably won't get a full check until your 2nd month in, maybe 3rd month, just depending on when you came out of training. And it can take a minute for, payroll to pick up on, having a full schedule, you having a full month, whatever, if it's a guarantee or a full month schedule. So you have to keep that in mind as well when you're thinking about becoming a flight attendant. Another thing that they hit on was stable family life and friends, keeping in touch with people. One thing you have to do when you take this career is emphasize to your family, especially your immediate family, hey, listen, I know I work a lot. I know might not be home, but please always include me in plans. Even if I can't do it, just always include me in the plans. Because it'll make you still feel a part of the family versus the family looking at you as alienated. Oh, you're off traveling the world, working, so we're not going to even include you because we don't even know if you're off or not. I promise you that does wonders when your family just still includes you, even though they know there's a high probability that you'll be working. My family does that with me all the time. They'll call me and say, hey, we having this, and this. Do you know if you're off? I say, hey, I won't know until the 16th, but I'll let you know. That does a lot for me to make it seem like they haven't forgot about me, even though my career takes me away from home a lot, that my family includes me in every single thing. So I can't stress that enough. keeping in touch with friends, and also your friends. Your friends have to understand that as well, because especially if you all been friends for a long time, stressing to them like, hey, include me in the plans, even though it might be a high probability that I can't. Just include me in the plans. It goes a long way, because again, like they said, this job can be lonely. It can get lonely because you're in a hotel. You might have 30 hours in an undesirable city. Your friends are out doing whatever and you can't talk to them. So you're sitting in your hotel room and you're watching TV, or you're looking through TikTok, or you're looking at their stories, seeing how much fun your family and friends are having without you. Depression can set in. I personally have never had that happen to me. But all I can say is, keep your mind working. Don't let your mind just sit idle in a hotel room. Find something to do. Find a hobby. Whether it's working out, whether it's going outside, walking around, just exploring the city. Even you don't have to spend money. Just walking around the city and just exploring the city that you've never been to before. But my advice is, don't let your mind sit idle, because that's when thoughts start to creep in and can take over. Another thing I want to hit on is, I know that a lot of people say this is their dream job, which 7 years ago, this was new to me. I've never heard anybody say I wanted to be a flight attendant, because I grew up in a time period where everything was gender specific. So when people came to our school for career day in elementary, everything was gender specific. Men were pilots, men were doctors, men were lawyers, firefighter, policemen, plumbers, electricians. Women were nurses, assistants, bank tellers, flight attendants, teachers. There was no crossing of it. So growing up, I never heard anybody say, hey, I want to become a flight attendant. Never had anybody in my family interested in aviation whatsoever, knew anything about aviation. So this is all new to me. And this is my personal thought. I'm not saying this is how airlines are. Being that they know that this is a lot of people's dream job, they know that most people will sacrifice everything to reach their dreams. Because ask yourself, what would you do to reach your dream? Your dream job, or whatever it is your dream, you will sacrifice everything. So sometimes the pay is going to start off low, and they know people will accept it because this is a dream job, and they're like, okay, it's going to get better with time, it's going to get better with time, it's going to get better with time. So they expect you to take it with the low pay. And for me, my biggest jump in pay was from my starting to my first year. That was the biggest jump. And then after that, it was just still smaller increments. So I think a lot of airlines play on the fact that this is a lot of people's dream job, so we don't have to start to pay at a reasonable pay to where it's a livable wage. We can start it off low because people will still take it because it's their dream job. It's something they want. And it's not a shortage of flight attendants. It's people wanting to be a flight attendant as well. That's just my personal opinion. That's just what I think about it. Now, did I have any financial struggles? No, because I've always lived my adult life well below my means, meaning that I was very frugal with my money. I always saved. I'm not a big spender on unnecessary things, I should say. So I would tell you that you have to have good spending habits, especially starting out. When you're on reserve, you might not get used a lot, especially if it's low flying season, which it will be like when people go back to school. Between that time, people go back to school and like the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. And then you have that period of where it slows down again after Christmas, between January and then till spring break. Then after spring break, it's till summertime and summer flying starts. So there are times where you might not get used if you're on reserve, or you might have a low credit schedule. Now there's the other things you can do to supplement that, like swapping out for higher credit trips, picking up on your off days, different things like that. But this is just the basic version. I'm not trying to get into the premium version of how you can make more money as a flight attendant. I'm just giving you the basic version. And again, nothing is absolute. There's always an exception. There's always things where, you can get a line for 1 month where you have 100 hours and then another one for 75 hours. It can happen that way. This job is very unpredictable. You have to be super flexible. And when they say that it can get challenging, it can get challenging. When you're dealing with delays, you're stuck on the tarmac because you can't get to your gate because the ramp shut down. So now you have a plane full of people that are frustrated, anxious because they're thinking about missing their connection. They're looking to you for answers, even though you don't have the answers, so you have to deal with that. That can be frustrating. It can. It can. But what I tell people, what I do is, I forget about it. Once I step off the plane, I forget about everything that happened on that plane. I forget about it. Because people ask me, you remember when this happened? I'm like, no, but you said it in your video. I said, listen, I forgot about it as soon as I stepped off the plane. I don't take work home with me, and I don't bring home to work. That's just my motto. And that has helped me deal with challenging situations. Even though a lot of things don't bother me, I'm a very unbothered person. And I know everyone is not like me, so some things can be challenging. Delays don't bother me whatsoever, unless it's go home day, because we want to go home. But delays in the middle of a trip don't bother me. I'll just kick up my feet, watch YouTube, watch Netflix, and just wait, because that's all you can do. Some people, it bothers them, and that's okay. We just have to learn how to work with it, and you have to ask yourself, is it worth dealing with? You have to be flexible, because there are times where you're scared. You might work a 16-hour day because you got delayed, or there's a maintenance issue. You have to ask yourself, does the good outweigh the bad? And that's how I look at everything. Does the good outweigh the bad of this job? And for me, it does. For me, it does. I've had more good days than I've had bad days, or challenging days. I won't say bad, challenging days when it comes to this career. Also, another advice that I would give you all, I know starting out the pay can be low. I know you can get frustrated. I know that you might have a hard time paying your bills. Sometimes we have to do a lot of things that we don't want to do. Pick up on our off days. And I know a lot of people don't want to do that. That's their off days. But we might have to. But I also tell people, man, use your benefits. Because if you don't use your benefits, you'll work this job and be like, what is the point? And then you don't use the benefits. I've always given new hires game of taking day trips to other cities that they've never been in. Because if you're going to be in Atlanta, you're going to go out for a weekend, you're going to spend a minimum of $250. Why not get on a flight, go to another city for a day, explore that city for 12 hours, have lunch, dinner, come back, and you don't even spend as much as $250. Or if you want to spend that $250, do it somewhere where you haven't seen. But use your benefits. Figure out a way. Because I promise you, people always say they don't have money, but somehow you figure out to find money to buy a Louis Vuitton purse, a Birkin bag, or some Christian Louboutin. I'm just spitballing. They don't be buying that, but you get the point. You find money for what you want to find money for, to spend it on what you want to spend it on. That's what I would say. Make sure you use those benefits, because if you don't, it could cause burnout, because you look at it like, what's the point? What's the point? I'm starting off at low pay. I have to commute. I don't live in base. So I gotta pay a crash pad, and I gotta pay my rent that wherever I live, or my mortgage wherever I live, especially if you don't have a significant other. And you gotta talk about feeding yourself. But always take care of yourself first. Tell everybody, even when you're delayed, when you have maintenance, take care of yourself first. If you haven't eaten all day, tell the captain, hey, listen, man, I haven't eaten all day. I know we're behind, but I have to get me something to eat. They'll understand. And if they don't understand that, you have to eat. You have to eat. So don't be afraid to stand up for yourself when it comes to this career. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. And those were just some of the little things that I can think of as far as giving the advice before you become a flight attendant. Is it worth it? You have to deal with some of those things. And again, nothing is absolute. Nothing is absolute. Nothing will always be 100%. Because one thing we know about the aviation industry, it's very unpredictable. One day you can have this 30-hour in a good city like a DC or Miami, and then boom, crew scheduling says, nope, we need to send you to Louisville, Kentucky, because this crew gonna misconnect and they're gonna take over you. Yeah, you're gonna get frustrated because you were looking forward to that long layover in Miami, or that long layover in DC because you have family in DC. or that long layover in Orlando because you have family down there, or you wanted to, you're a Disney fan and you wanted to go to Disney World. It happens. It happens. Nothing's gonna be perfect, but you have to be flexible. You have to be like a palm tree, as they say. Just go wherever the wind blows. But I'm gonna stop there. I can't think of anything else right now that I wanna give to you all about, is it really worth it? That's something you have to ask yourself after listening to some of the things, the story that the former flight attendant wrote, some of the things that I've told you. You have to ask yourself, can I deal with this? Is it really worth it? Some people, at first you might think you can, but then you get to training where you're away from home for 4 weeks. You're away from your kids. You miss out on the birthday. You miss out on graduation. You miss out on anniversaries. You can't be there to tuck your kids in at night. You can't be there with your significant other every day to kiss them goodnight, to make sure, outside of your normal routine, because once you've had a normal routine, like a regular 9 to 5, where it's Monday through Friday, you off on Saturday, your significant other, your kids, they get used to that. And it's going to be a big adjustment for everybody. But the biggest thing you need is support from everyone that's around you in your village. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? And for me, it was worth it, and it still is worth it. I use this job to my advantage. I knew at 21 what I wanted to do when I retired, and that was travel the world. But I didn't know how I was going to achieve it. Didn't know how. I wanted to do it as cheap as possible, cost efficient as possible, but I didn't know at that time. I didn't find out until I was 33 how I could do it. Become a flight attendant. It gives me the flexibility that I need to where I don't have to take off. If my kids need to go to the doctor, I don't have to use PTO during the week. I just use my off day that I have during the week and take them to the doctor. If I want to show up for something at my child's school and I'm off during the week, I can go. I don't have to use PTO. If I want to take a vacation 12 times a year, I can. I have that flexibility to do so. Whether it's a day trip or whether it's a couple of days or whether it's a week, I have that flexibility. Now, granted, the more senior you get, the more flexibility you're afforded. Supposedly, I should say. Let me say that you're supposed to be afforded more flexibility because this is a seniority-driven business. But I use these benefits to my advantage. I take my kids, my family around the world for little or nothing. And not saying that I would have never done this had I not had this job, but it would have took me a lot longer to get to all the places that I've been to so far. So for me, it's worth it because, like I said before, the good outweigh the bad by a lot. For every bad day, for every delay that I have, for every passenger blow up, I have 10 times more good days than those bad days. And that's how I look at it. It's more good days than bad. So for those who are looking to become a flight attendant, I hope you take, notice to this video. You take it into consideration in everything of your situation, because no two person's situation is going to be the same. So you might have a different situation than somebody else that's also applying, that might be applying for the same job. So just take this with a grain of salt and just apply it to your life. You know your situation better than I would anybody else. So you know what you can or cannot do and what you can and cannot afford. Take that all into consideration before becoming this flight attendant. Because again, this lifestyle is not for everybody. So thank you all for watching. As always, hug on the ones that you love. Tell the ones that you love them.
I don't know.